Hey everyone, thanks for joining us today. This is Extending Oracle Fusion Apps with Visual Builder. We'll give you an introduction, we'll do a bunch of demos and show you how you can use Visual Builder to extend Oracle Fusion Cloud Apps. My name is Shai Schmelzer. I'm part of the product management team at Oracle for the Oracle Cloud Development Tools. And also with us today is Blaine Carter, also from product management. Blaine would be monitoring the Q&A panel. So if during the session you have any question, post them on the Q&A tab and we'll try and address them during the session. Right, so let's get started. First of all the demos I'm going to show you today are on the production version of Visual Builder. So everything that you're going to see is on the production, but I'm also going to mention some of the things we're planning for the future. So I need to show you this safe harbor statement. So the session today is about extending Oracle Cloud Apps, Fusion Apps, and maybe we should start with when and why would you want to extend those applications. So I'm assuming all of you know Fusion Apps. Fusion Apps is basically the Oracle Enterprise class applications in the cloud. They consist of the Oracle HCM, ERP, SCM, and CX. And those applications provide organizations with a lot of functionality out of the box, a lot of capabilities that are built into the applications. But with everything, every solution that you would get off the shelf, what we call, there might be things that you would need to do a little differently. Okay, it might be that you want to adjust little things that can be, for example, the title or the label that is associated with a specific field. Maybe you call a specific field with a different name in your environment. It might be that due to regulation or some business processes in your organization, things behave a little differently in different countries that your organization is operating in, and you need to adjust things in that sense. Maybe based on the role of people, you want to show them a little things a little differently in each page. It might be more complex things. It might be that you have a different process for implementing a specific task, and you need to implement this process. You need to implement those checks. Maybe you have an idea for a little bit of a different user interface, maybe a simplified user interface. Maybe there's only a limited set of fields that you need to show in specific cases, and you want to optimize your user experience. And this is another scenario where you might want to do, again, extensions or customizations of the application. There are also scenarios where you want to create applications that talk to Oracle Fusion application, but actually work outside of Fusion application. And maybe you need to mesh up Fusion application data with some data from an external system. Maybe you have some system that are not the Oracle Fusion apps that have data that is critical to decisions that you're making inside Fusion apps. And you need to create pages that merge the two pieces of information together. So there's a lot of scenarios like these that require you to create extensions to Visual Builders. Basically take, not to Visual, but to Cloud Apps. Basically take what Cloud Apps gives you as the main storage of data for your organization and create an optimized user experience or a different user experience. Now, the nice things that we're doing is that we're giving you the Oracle Application Platform to create those extensions. And the Oracle Application Platform is basically the same platform that we are using to build Fusion applications in your hands, allowing you to use the same tools and the same technologies to build your extensions. Okay. This is all based on the Redwood user experience, the design system, with a bunch of tools and capabilities that are built into the system, allowing you to create advanced extensions, just like we create the application. Because you're using the same tools and the same user interface, your extensions can seamlessly work as part of Fusion application. They would look the same, they behave the same, okay? Making the whole learning curve for your end users much simpler. So today we're going to focus on the low code section of this platform. And the low code section is basically this tool called Visual Builder. And it's part of the Oracle Application Platform. It's also part of your Fusion instance already. Okay. So if you're not familiar with Visual Builder, Oracle Fusion Cloud Applications, the new modules that are being developed there, what we call the Redwood modules, are all being developed with Visual Builder. So Visual Builder is the development tool for Fusion apps going forward. That's what all the new modules in Fusion Apps are being built with. And this is across all the line of businesses. So in HCM, in CX, in ERP, in SCM, in all of those, you're already seeing, and you're going to see more and more pages that have been built with Visual Builder. In fact, in release 24A of Fusion Apps, there are over 900 pages inside Fusion Apps that have been built and are already delivered as Redwood-based, Visual Builder-based applications. Now, the other role of Visual Builder in Fusion Apps, beyond just being the development tool, it's also the tool that is being used to customize and extend those applications. So you, as a consumer of Fusion Apps, are going to be able to take pages from Fusion Apps and customize them. And when you do those customization, you're going to do it inside Visual Builder, same tool that was used to develop those pages. If you're not familiar with what Visual Builder is a visual development environment that allows you to rapidly create and extend applications. Okay, this is basically what you're seeing up here at the top right. This is the development environment. As you can see, very visual, very easy to use. Okay. Beyond being the development environment, Visual Builder also has a part that allows you to host applications that you created with Visual Builder. Okay, so this is a managed hosting platform for your application. Another part of Visual Builder in Visual Builder Studio, the development environment, is an integrated, collaborative platform that allows a team to collaborate while developing the application. It has everything from Git-based version management for your code, continuous integration and continuous delivery of your application, as well as tools to manage your project like issue tracking, agile planning, and many other capabilities. At the end of the day, the Visual Builder platform is divided into two services that you find in the cloud. The first one is called Visual Builder Studio. This is basically the development interface, as well as the DevOps operation, the whole lifecycle, Git version management, and stuff like that. The second service is called Visual Builder, and Visual Builder is basically a runtime that allows you to host your own application in the cloud. It's a managed app hosting platform. Okay, so those are the two services that are in there. Now, the nice thing is that today, when you access Fusion application, you would find Visual Builder, actually Visual Builder Studio, the design time, built into your configuration tools inside Fusion Apps. Every customer of Fusion Apps have an instance of Visual Builder Studio already in your environment. This instance by default right now is associated with your test environment, but it can also be moved to any of the other dev and test instances if you have multiple of those. By the way, as Fusion moves to a Fusion as a service platform, you would actually be able to spin up a Visual Builder Studio for each one of your FA instances, dev or test. Okay? But even today, you already have access to this Visual Builder Studio inside your configuration menu. All you need is the right role in Fusion Apps to have access to this. So basically an application developer role. Now, what can you do with this Visual Builder? You can actually do three things, okay? Three types of things. If we start from the left, the first thing that you can do is you can take one of the pages that Oracle created in Fusion Apps, one of the Redwood pages, and you can customize it. You can modify it. Okay? So take the pages that Oracle created and modify how they look or how they behave. The second thing that you can do is you can create your own new pages that will be part of Fusion application. You decide on the content of the page in terms of what it shows, how it shows it, the business logic that is implemented in the page. You can access all the data that is inside Fusion Apps, okay? And you create new pages that are part of Fusion Apps. They are going to appear just like any other page in Fusion Apps, be part of the menu as well, okay? Now, those two capabilities don't require any additional license. They are already part of your Fusion Apps license. You're already able to do it. You don't need to install anything else. You don't need to license anything else. The third capability is the ability to create standalone applications, okay, applications that run outside of Fusion App that can access Fusion App data if you want to, Okay, they can also access other systems. They can also have their own business objects, their own database. And those applications run on a standalone Visual Builder instance and will require a Visual Builder license. We're going to focus today mostly on the first two options that are included for free, and we're going to show you how to use those. And if we'll have time, we'll also touch on the third option at the end. So the first thing that you can do with Visual Builder Studio is you can actually edit pages that Oracle delivered to you. So Oracle created, as we said, over 900 Redwood pages in your Fusion apps. We worked very hard to make them very friendly, very easy to use. But as we said, sometimes you have some things that you might want to do and change in those applications. Maybe there are fields that are not relevant for you. Maybe you want to hide some fields. Maybe there are extra fields that you want to show, and you can add those fields. Maybe you want to rearrange fields. Maybe you want to modify and conditionally show specific fields. For example, maybe the address that you're showing, the address for an employee would be different based on the country that they are in. Some countries have counties, some don't. So all sorts of those situations. Maybe there are all sorts of restrictions that you want to show or hide fields based on roles or who's accessing your system. Okay. And maybe there are calculated fields you want to show. And in some cases, we even allow you to add completely new areas to your page with your own content. Okay, so all of those type of things are things that you can do on pages that Oracle delivers using Visual Builder. Okay, you would be using the page inside Fusion Apps like that. If you want to modify it, you would go to the menu up here and you'll click on it. You'll see an option here, which is called Edit Page in Visual Builder Studio. And when you click on it, we'll open the page in design view, allowing you to modify the page. And what I'll show you today is that there are two ways to modify it. There's what we call the advanced way, and there's the express mode. The express mode is aimed at business users who want a very easy way to do stuff. The advanced mode is targeted at more advanced developers that want to do stuff and can do more advanced capabilities and changes in the application. Okay. All of those things are available for you, again, for all the Redwood pages that Oracle delivers. Now, what you can do in each specific page, what type of customization can you do? This is up to the team that built the page. So the teams that built the page decide on what level of customization they allow you to do there. And the reason is because we want those customization to be upgrade safe. So when we release the next version of Fusion Apps, your customization would still be relevant and would still take effect without breaking anything. Okay, so when we upgrade stuff, your extensions don't break. Okay, it's important, one thing to indicate here, this capability to do it from Visual Builder is only for pages that were built with Visual Builder, so only the new Redwood pages. Older pages that were built with ADF would still use things like the page composer to customize those. New pages are being built with Visual Builder and use Visual Builder to do the customization. Right, so that was the first thing that you can do. The second thing that you can do is you can create new pages in Oracle Cloud Apps. Okay, so this is situations where you have another way that you want to show data. Maybe you have new business logic that you need to inject. Okay, maybe there are custom objects that you want to work with. Okay, and you can create pages that will basically run in the context of an Oracle Fusion Apps. They will be accessible to Oracle Cloud Fusion Apps users. You can also, by the way, restrict who can access specific pages using the Fusion App roles. So we're working tightly with the security mechanism in Fusion Apps. And those pages can access any data in the Oracle Cloud Apps objects. By the way, data also from non-Redwood systems. So any business object that is inside Fusion Apps. You can also access custom objects that you create through using the App Composer tool in Fusion Apps. So if you created a custom object, you can access it. You can also access information through Oracle Integration Cloud. Okay? And you can also access external REST services. Today, there are limits on the type of REST services you can access in terms of the authentication they support. okay? But we're adding more and more authentication types with future versions of the capabilities in Fusion apps, okay? Those pages that you're going to create are going to be developed using the same exact tool, same Visual Builder Studio, okay, that we're using to build the application, that you use to do customization. The whole management of the life cycle is also done in Visual Builder Studio using Git as version management and using automated CI/CD pipeline to deploy your application. And at the end of the day, when you create the application, it is deployed onto the Fusion Apps infrastructure. So you don't need any additional cloud service. Some key things to know when you're developing. The first thing is that you can leverage all the Redwood templates that Oracle is using and all the Redwood components that Oracle is using in your pages. So your pages are going to look exactly like the pages that Oracle created, okay? If you're not familiar with Redwood, Redwood is the new design system that Oracle is using for all our modern applications. That's the new look and feel that you're seeing across Fusion apps. It's a set of templates, best practices, design practices that we're using to build those applications, and all those resources are available for you as a developer to build your application. So when you create a new page, it can be based on the same Redwood template that we use to create our pages, and the same patterns as well. In addition, you can access all the business objects and REST services that are exposed in Fusion apps using our service catalog, okay? As you can see, you can use ERP, SCM, HCM, CX. All of those business objects are available to you from an organized service catalog, and we know how to work with them very smartly. A very important point here is that we're tightly integrated with the Fusion app users and roles. We're not running in a separate service. We are running as part of Fusion apps, which means that you can leverage the same identity repository, okay? Same users and roles that are defined there, and you can use it in your application to restrict who can do what, okay? For example, you can secure a specific page to only be accessible to people with a specific Fusion role. You can secure your whole extension to only be accessible on that. You can check the user role that is currently connected and decide dynamically whether you want to show or hide fields and operation in your page, okay? Don't need to do anything more beyond that. You don't need to set anything up. We're already plugged into your Fusion app security mechanism. When you develop your application, you develop it visually. When you're ready to publish it, you click the publish button, and we run an automated CI/CD, continuous integration and continuous delivery pipeline at the backend that takes your extension, packages it, optimizes it for optimized performance, and deploys it onto the Fusion apps infrastructure, okay? You can do additional steps, of course, in our CI/CD pipeline. You can also take the same extension and deploy it with different jobs to different FA instances that you have, okay? To the different development, test, and production instances you have out there. Okay? Once you deploy an extension, it can be a new tile in the Fusion menu if you want to, okay? So it would just appear like any other menu item in Fusion apps, okay? This whole thing is enabled because inside Visual Builder Studio, we have direct connection in our environments to map to your Oracle application cloud instances. So you can map a single Visual Builder Studio instance to all your Fusion app instances and deploy to each one of those. Also, from inside Visual Builder Studio, you'll be able to manage all the deployment that you have done in specific instances, and you can roll them back, remove them, add them, do stuff like that. In terms of architecture, what you're basically getting, part of Fusion apps is Visual Builder Studio. There's a visual development part in there. There's a Git file by source management. There's CI/CD automation. There's a capability to do code review, manage your tasks, your agile process. There's a wiki in there. All of this is inside the same box as Fusion apps, and your developers would be working in this environment. Once they create the application and they publish it, this is published onto the same runtime as Oracle Cloud Apps, okay? into the same app hosting server, accessing the same SaaS instance and all the business object in there. Your customers can use their devices to access the application, basically communicating over HTTPS and using REST to get the data. So let's take a break from the slides for a second and let's see all of this in action. So I'm going to go over here into my Oracle Fusion Apps instance. And there are, as I mentioned, there are multiple modules in Fusion Apps that have been built with Visual Builder. For example, if we go into digital sales and we look at the activities that a salesperson has a list of activities, this person doesn't have anything to do, but they can also go over and create new ones. As a user, okay, because this is a Redwood page, I can go over here and edit this page in Visual Builder, okay? Note that in the URL, you can see Redwood over here, which indicates this is a Redwood page, okay? Compared to non-Redwood pages, which would have faces in there, these are the ADF pages. So this was, for example, an example from CX. If I'm working in HCM, for example, I can go into the Journeys module. Journeys is basically the way that you manage tasks for employees. Okay, so you can go over and look at all my tasks as an employee and see what's going on here. And again, this is a Redwood page. You can see it in the URL. You can see the new look and feel. You can also, by the way, see the better performance that Redwood pages have inherently inside your Fusion apps. And you see this page and maybe you have some things that you want to change here, okay? Maybe, for example, you don't want this reopen option, okay? Maybe in your organization, you can't reopen a task that was completed, okay? Maybe you want to hide the icon in some cases. So to do those type of changes, you can go over here and say, edit this page in Visual Builder. And when you do this, we go over and we open Visual Builder into the specific project that you're working in. Again, because this is a demo environment, I have multiple projects. Usually our business users would have one project that they are working on. And once you say open this page in Visual Builder, we're actually taking you into Visual Builder Studio. And note that we're currently in what we call the Express mode. And you have a simplified view of your page. By the way, this Express mode, this is the first generation of the Express mode. You're going to see it becoming even simpler in the next versions, making it even easier to manage stuff. So on this page, as a business user, I can now modify things. And there are two ways of modifying things. One way is using constants. Okay, there's a lot of things in here, a lot of constants that I can use to modify behavior. For example, if I want to modify and remove the reopen button, there is a constant here called reopen. So I do a search, I find the constant, and I can turn it off. Okay, and when I turn it off, the reopen button is gone from here. So this is one type of customizations that I can do. Using, again, in this page itself, there are 19 built-in things that you can modify. Beyond that, some components on the page might be customizable. Okay, for example, in my case, this area of the page is customizable. So I can choose it and I can configure the layout for this area. Okay, for example, maybe I don't want this icon over here. So let's configure the layout. Now, when I go into configuration mode, I have the default configuration that Oracle created and delivered as part of this page. If I want to do my own configuration, I'm going to duplicate this. I'm going to create, for example, the shy configuration. Okay. And then I can decide on a condition of what do I want to configure. So maybe I don't want to do the configuration for everything. Maybe for specific roles, okay, I want to do a different look and feel. So again, I can say if the role is one of the roles, and again, this is the list of roles from Fusion Apps, okay? I have direct access to this. I can restrict on role. I can restrict on a bunch of other things. I can restrict based on the journey name. So for example, if the journey name is of specific type, I can do something, okay? I can, based on the status of a journey, I can decide what to do in the layout, okay? Also, I can do things based on the size of a device. So for example, I can say, hey, if I'm on a small device, okay, if the small device is true, I want to have my specific layout. And then I can go into my layout and I can modify. So this is the default layout Oracle gave me, okay? And I can say, for example, hey, on a mobile device, I don't want this icon. Or maybe I want to say, hey, on a mobile device, there's a bunch of actions I can do on a specific task. I can say, hey, we are not allowing the remove and we're not allowing the reopen on mobile devices. Okay, again, usually we do this based on, for example, the country you're in or the role that you're in. But for now, just for the sake of the demo, we're going to do it on a mobile device. Okay, you can also, by the way, from here, customize fields. So for example, if you don't like the title that we have for the name of a journey, you can modify the label here. So you can say a name or journey name or whatever you want to the title to be. Okay, so as you can see, as a user, very easy interface over here to go and modify things. I can give a helpful hint and stuff like that for fields, etc. Once I did these changes, remember my changes are only for the mobile case. So this is how the page looks on a regular big screen. As we mentioned, we have here multiple options, including the remove option. Okay. But if I go over and I switch to look at it on a small device, okay, the icon is gone, okay? And in the menu, I don't have the remove option anymore. So this is my customization working right now on my page. If I'm happy with this customization, I can just click publish right now, and this would take my customization and publish it to the development instance that I'm working on right now. So this is the first scenario that we talked about, taking a page that Oracle created and adding customizations on top of it. We did all of this in express mode. There's also the advanced mode, which give you everything that I just did, plus more advanced capabilities. So in advanced mode, you're seeing more options over here to modify your page, okay? But we want to do something else beyond modifying an existing page, okay, which is, again, over here you have the list of pages in journeys that I can modify. Again, a huge list of pages. And of course, other HCM modules. I can also create my own page. So let's close those tabs. And let's create our new page. And we did something with HCM, so let's move over and do something with ERP, for example. Let's do our own interface for managing expenses. We'll call it expenses shy. All right. And we go in here, and again, we have the visual page editor. We're going to use the fit to canvas to have a big screen. And as you can see, it's already part of the menu, okay? So the menu up here, the Fusion menu, it's already hooked up. But we want our page to look more like pages that Oracle created, something like this, okay? So this is a page with a search. And Oracle provides a bunch of templates for pages, and I can select from those templates, okay? And I can choose, for example, the search template. And this would apply the search template to my page. And I can go over and now I can modify properties of the template, like the title. We'll call it my expenses. Search and update, for example. And I can also choose to have what we call the mixed look and feel. Okay, so again, this looks and feel like the other page. Over here, we have slots to insert data. So let's pick up a search component and put it in the search slot. Okay. Now we can hook this up to a variable. So we'll create a variable here. We'll call this one the search variable. And again, if you look at this page, it has the same look and feel as this thing. So now we need to have some data in here. Okay. So the data that we want is some information about the expenses. Now, in our services, okay, we already have access to all the HCM services in here, but now I need a service from another line of business. I need it from the expenses. So I go to my service catalog where I can access my CX, HCM, ERP, and SCM. I go into the ERP and I look up all the business objects that ERP exposes. And it's a huge list of business objects. So I'm not going to scroll through everything. I'm actually going to type expenses, which would filter it to show me the expenses. And I'm going to create a new connection to the expenses server and call it expenses. Okay, and that's all I need to do. Now I can go back to my page, okay, the page that we're creating. In the data area, under services, I now have expenses. And I can say, hey, let's take the expenses and drag and drop them into the page to create, for example, a table or a list. Okay, let's create a list, for example. Again, I can choose the same look and feel as Oracle uses here. Okay, and then I can choose the specific fields that are interesting to me. So we chose to use what we call dynamic binding to REST service, which means that as I'm working with the service, I'm querying the data dictionary to see which data we have about the expense. Okay, so one of the things we want to know is the merchant name. That's the primary text. And what we also want to know maybe is the description of the expense. So we'll put this in the second column. So we'll pick up the description, which is over here. Okay. And then there's a bunch of things we want to know about the actual receipt. So we can do a search here and look at some, like the receipt amount. We can put it as the secondary text and maybe put next to it the receipt currency. Okay. Maybe in the third column, we can add the receipt date. Okay. And this is how I basically design my layout for my information. Then I can, for example, use filtering to filter the receipt. I don't want to see everything. I want to be able to do a search. So maybe I want to do a search based on the merchant name. I want to make sure that it contains whatever is in my search var. Okay, like this. Zoom is hiding this. Okay, so I had a condition here. I can basically add another condition. I can search both on the merchant or on the description with the same variable, so same search variable. Okay, and we would want to do it with an order between those two. So my search should be either in merchant or description, and that's my search. And now I can click finish, and I go back to my page. We are now live fetching the data from Fusion Apps and getting the list of my expenses. Okay, if I make this a little bigger, like that, we'll have the responsive UI, so the items are one next to the other. Now, because I'm in live mode, I can also go over and I can do a search. So I can type tech, for example, and get all the tech related things, okay? Maybe someone ordered dinner. Let's look up dinner and I do a search on this field, okay? So this is basically my page already working, okay? And as you saw, very easy drag and drop, low code development, very visual, easy access to the REST service and getting the data. Let's make this application even a little bit more advanced. Okay, so we have a list here. On this list, there's a bunch of events. What happens if I select item from this list? What I want to do is I want to do something. So if you're not familiar with Visual Builder, this is how you build business logic in Visual Builder. If you need an if then else, you do something like this. If you need to call a REST service, you put it over here. And if you need to fire a notification on the else, you fire a notification. And then for each one of those, you can set properties. Okay. So this is how you define what we call action chains in Visual Builder Studio. Very visual. I'm going to actually don't need all those 3 steps, so I'm going to remove those. Instead, what I want to do when I select a record is I want to go to a page to allow me to edit this record. So I'm going to navigate to a page. I'm going to create the page. Oops, reload here. Oops, my session might have expired. That's what happens with live demos. Let's go back over to over here. Yeah, We were working on this page, I believe. Yeah. Yeah, okay. So we were working on the list over here, and we were defining the navigation, okay? So we want to navigate to a new page. Let's create the page, okay? We'll create an update page, update expense, and we can use, again, the simple create and edit page template, okay? So let's go to this page. Okay, this page would have the look and feel over here of the page. And again, we can set the title here, update expense. Okay. Do something, okay, whatever we want the title to be here. Okay. Now this page, because we are working on a specific expense, we need to pass in a parameter. So we'll mark this as an input parameter. This would be the expense ID, the object ID. Again, this is driven from patterns of usage that we recognize when you develop. So now over here, if we go to the navigate to page, we have a parameter object ID, and we're going to pass the key of the row that we are on. So when we're on a specific expense and we click now, we're going to the edit page. And on this page, I would want to show my data, okay? So again, I can use, for example, a dynamic form. I can also bring my own form over here. Let me delete this one. And I'm just going to go back to the services here to expenses and drag and drop expense into the main slot. This time I'm going to create an edit form. Okay. Again, I'm able to select which fields I'm interested in. So we're querying to see if there are any new fields that are interesting to us. We're going to pick up the description, and we said the merchant name. So that should be around here. And then a bunch of things we said about receipts. So we can do the receipt amount and currency and date, okay, for example. And again, you can, of course, reorder stuff, organize it the way you want. We're updating a specific record. So we're going to map our parameter over here, click finish. And now when we look at the page, we have the details of the specific expense that we clicked on, okay? Then the only thing we are left to do is the submit button needs to submit the update. Again, in our template, there are events. We have the primary action over here, the submit chain, okay? And we want to modify it to basically do a save of the expense chain. Okay, and we need to just then give you the expense information. Oops, sorry. Go back here. Yeah, the expense ID, which is this object ID that we had over here. So this would save the expense. And that's it. We built a complete new way to work with expenses that would be integrated in Fusion Apps. I can hit the little preview button. This would run my little page that I created, and I can now work and edit my expenses. Actually, I don't want to start from the edit page. I want to start from the main page. So let's run this page first. Okay. All right. So we go into here. By the way, the expenses that I see here, the list of expenses is only the expenses for the current user that is logged in. If I would log in with a different user, I would see that user expenses. Again, security is built in. Then I can look up my pizza expenses, click on the pizza chat. When I click on it, I go into a page that allows me to update. Actually, it cost me $40 and it was on a different date. And again, this whole thing looks like Fusion Apps. I can click on the submit button and save those expenses and the update into my Oracle ERP system. Now, this whole thing again, okay, so expenses saved. This is now inside my database. I'm part of Fusion Apps. If I click on the menu up here, I would go to my Fusion Apps, okay? When I publish my extension, it can basically appear over here under others as one of the boxes here, okay? I didn't publish this, but All I need to do in order to publish is click this publish button and it will publish it. When I publish it, the way it actually does it, if I go back to my project, it's going to run this pipeline over here that takes my expense. I'll show you the layout. What it does is it takes my extension, package it, and deploys it into our instance. All of this is already pre-configured for you in your project. So let's go back to the slides. What we saw right now, the two demos that we saw right now are the two first scenarios. Okay, so if we actually go back to this slide over here that talks about the scenarios, we just saw taking a page and modifying it, and then creating a full new module with new pages, new layouts, specific fields, specific business logic. All of this is included free inside your Fusion apps already with the Visual Builder Studio that comes with it. Okay. Some things to highlight. This is the native approach to creating Fusion app extension. Okay. It's already in your environment. Nothing else to install, nothing else that you need to license. Everything that I showed you so far is included. The extensions is an integral part of your application. It's not an iframe. It's not something that you plug into another page. It is a page in Fusion apps. It also uses the same security layer, okay? And that's very important. When you're accessing data in Fusion apps, you want to make sure that the user that is accessing the application is only able to see the data that he's allowed to see. He's only able to do the operation on the data that he's allowed to do. So being able to leverage the same users and roles is the first thing you should be looking at when you're creating an extension. And that's something you get here out of the box. The pages that you create look and behave exactly like Fusion apps because they have the same Redwood template as Fusion apps. Okay? The access to Fusion apps objects is done through the catalog. You can see exactly what is in there. You can pick the specific operation you're interested in, specific fields. We're dynamically populating this catalog for you, so you know it's the latest and greatest information. The other thing is you saw we can do query by example on the data. We can do pagination, we can do sorting, work with relationship. We know how to work with the business object in Fusion apps very smartly. In terms of the development experience, this was a truly visual development. Everything that you did there was visual. You dragged and dropped things, you used property inspector, even the business logic that you created was done in a visual way. However, what I created there is actual HTML code, JavaScript code that you can also access if you want to. And then we use a modern development methodology with Git version management, CI/CD, to manage all those extensions that you created, manage the code and the deployment across the environment. So those are some of the key benefits that Visual Builder provides you as a tool for building extensions and customizations in Fusion apps. Okay. Now, in some cases, you might want to create bespoke Visual Builder apps, so applications that work as standalone applications, okay, that access Fusion apps. Okay, now some of those applications you might even want to embed them into Fusion apps, and you can do that. Okay, basically using an iframe. But they run outside of Fusion app on Visual Builder server. Because they run on Visual Builder server, okay, which requires a license for Visual Builder, you get additional capabilities. First thing that you get is additional REST authentication protocols, so you can access more data. Okay. The other capability that you get is the ability to create custom business object, and you also get a built-in database as part of Visual Builder. So you can create your own business object, store data in there, and work with the data. It can also map to an existing database that you have in the cloud, or a new database in the cloud. The app can then be accessed also by non-SaaS users if you want to. So you are in full control over who uses the application. If you need to create an application that accesses SaaS data but is available to non-SaaS users, that's definitely a solution. For example, maybe you need to create an application for customers to access your product catalog. Okay, so non-Fusion user accessing Fusion data. The application can run as a standalone app. They can even have their own vanity domain, so your own URL over there, and they can have any look and feel you want for them. Okay, you can use the Redwood look and feel, but you can also use your own look and feel. The development is done in exactly the same way, and you have the same Great Fusion application integration if you want to. So you still have the service catalog as well as Oracle integration that you can access. You still can use the same identity propagation and same way to access the data based on the users and all. You still have all the capabilities of working with the services in a smart way, and you can still use the Redwood template and components. The only difference is that standalone applications are deployed to a Visual Builder runtime, either a standalone Visual Builder or part of Oracle Integration Cloud. Then beyond app hosting, you also get a database, business object, and a secure way to access a bunch of REST services. Okay. So let me show you that part in development. So maybe one thing before I go into that thing, I want to show you just one more thing about the extension that we created very quickly. And that's that if you wanted in your extension, okay, to connect to an external REST service, you can do this, right? So if we were looking at a specific expense in our application and we wanted to get data from some external REST service, I can go into the services, and just like I added a service connection from the catalog, I can also go to an external REST service. Okay, so if I pick up this URL, for example, and paste it here, next, okay, I'm going to create a connection to a REST service that gets me a list of countries. Now, when you're working in the App UI environment, when you're creating extensions with a Visual Builder Studio, right now the two or the three ways that you can connect to REST services, either if they don't have any authentication needs, or if you authenticate to them with the same user that you're inside Fusion Apps, or if you're using an auth user assertion approach. Okay. In future versions of the Visual Builder Studio that comes with Fusion Apps, this list is going to grow to include more authentication types. Right? Right now, the service that I'm connecting, which brings me information about countries, doesn't require any authentication. So I can just go over here. I can actually test this, make sure that we get a list of countries, and create my connection to this service. Then I go back to my update page over here. Okay. And maybe I need to also update the location of where this expense happened. So I can pick up a single selection component, for example, put it over here, okay, call this one my location, okay, and hook it up to data for my countries service. So this is data coming from outside Fusion Apps that I can pick up and bring it over here. So I can show you, for example, the name of the country and return the code of the country over here. Okay. And now in my application, I can also browse a list of all the countries in the world like that. Okay. And basically do a searches and stuff like that on this list. So this is, again, when I'm working on my extensions in here. Now what I wanted to show you is that beyond working on an extension, I can also create a new standalone Visual Builder app. So up until now, I was working on an environment that was an Oracle Application Cloud instance. And when I deploy my application and when I run it, it runs as part of Application Cloud. From the same environment, I can also map to a standalone Visual Builder instance, okay, which is called VB standalone in my environment. And then I can go over and instead of creating an application extension, I can create a new regular visual application. So we're in the Christmas period, so we're going to do a Christmas application on our standalone VB. Again, I can choose different templates for my application. For example, I can use the Redwood template if I want to, okay? Or I can use just an empty application and on a Scratch repository. Or I can create a Git repository or however I want to manage this. Okay? Anyway, the point here is to show you how you can create a standalone application that looks a little differently, that deals with your own business objects, but still connects to Fusion Apps to get some data. Okay, so what we're going to create is we're going to create our little Christmas application, just one-page application, basically. And over here, we're going to track the gifts that we are giving over in Christmas. We're going to track gifts over here. So what I need is I need a list of the gifts that I have. So I can create a business object here to track those gifts. I can also import data from an Excel spreadsheet. So I actually have an Excel spreadsheet with a list of gifts that we can give our customers this year. So I'm going to upload this Excel spreadsheet into Visual Builder. Hopefully this works. Yeah, okay. We actually read the Excel spreadsheet. We noticed there's a gifts tab there. Those are the fields that are in that Excel spreadsheet. This is the data in there. And when I click finish, what we're actually doing is we're taking data from the Excel spreadsheet and we're populating it inside an Oracle database in the cloud, which now holds this data about our gifts. Okay. I can also add a field here, which is a new field. We'll call this one who gets it. Okay, so this would be the name of the customer that gets this gift. And now I can go back to the page, and what I can do here is I can go over to my data, and just like we did with the Fusion data, I can get my gifts, drag and drop them over here, and have a table that lists the gifts with the image and their cost. Okay, we'll put the image first and maybe make it a little bigger, like an image. Okay. So get a list of gifts over here, maybe make the image a little bigger here, like that, so we can actually see what we're giving away. Now we need to give this gift to someone. So what we can do is, just like before, we click on the list and we can say, hey, what I want to do is when I select an item in this list, I want to go and edit the page. Actually, there's a simpler way to do it when I'm in Visual Builder. I can just use a quick start here. So instead of creating the event manually, we'll delete this one. I'm going to use a quick start that says, let's create an edit page for the gifts. Okay. And we're going to say, we also want to say who we're giving it to. Okay. Basic fields here, finish. And now when I select, for example, the hat, I can go over and edit information about this gift. And I can say, who am I giving it to? By the way, it would be nice to show this as an image. So let's pick up an avatar component, put it up here at the top, for example, and put the image information about from our gift in here. Okay, can make this a little bigger, and we can even make it circular like that. Okay, so we don't need this field. Right. So now I can go over and I can say, hey, if I'm in live mode, I can say, hey, this hat goes to Joe, for example, and I can save the data. So this is nice. Now I have a system to track gifts, but the whole point here is extending Fusion apps. So what if I'm only allowed to give those gifts to my customers? So what I want to do here is connect to Fusion apps and get the list of my customers. So just like before, I go to my service catalog. We already did HCM, we already did ERP, so let's do CX. Okay, we work with sales and services. We go to the data catalog, and one of the things we have in CX is the list of accounts. Okay, so I can basically look at the accounts. I can see all the information, all the endpoints that accounts exposes. I'm just interested in the basic information about an account. Okay, don't need all the related items. And I'm going to create a connection for my standalone Visual Builder application to this account objects in Fusion Apps. Okay, and now I can go over to my edit page, okay, and say, hey, this who gets it? This actually needs to be a select list. So we'll take a select list over here. Okay, and the option for this select list is going to come from the accounts. Okay, and again, we're fetching the list of columns from accounts. And there's a field called organization name. That's the name of the company. And that's who I'm giving this gift to. Okay. So we just need to map this. So the value that we are selecting here would go into the gift and into the who gets it. Okay. So instead of Joe, okay, now we can select from the list. This is going into Fusion Apps. still have the capability to do query, by example, pick a customer and populate the who gets it. Okay, and again, this is completely something that you can customize. Select from list. Okay, you can say, for example, hey, you know what? I want this page to show me 2 columns instead of 1 column in this form over here. Okay, so the form, we want to have it with 2 columns like that. Okay, and you can completely customize what you're doing here. Once you're ready to run your application, click run. This runs as a standalone application. Your customers can access it and work with your account teams, for example, can decide, hey, this USB drive, I want to edit it and I want to give it to someone from our list of customers, ABC Corporation of America, and then save the data. And that's all you need to do. So again, 5 minutes of development, creating a standalone application, accessing Fusion apps, accessing my own custom objects using Visual Builder. Right, let's finish up with just a summary and some FAQs of frequent questions that we get when we do this session, and then we'll answer your questions from the Q&A. First question that a lot of people are asking is, okay, this is great. I love the way that you customize pages here. Can I do it with all the pages in Fusion Apps? And the answer is no, you can only do it for the pages that were developed with Visual Builder. As we said in 24A, that's over 900 pages in Fusion Apps that you can customize. As we progress over time, you're going to see more and more pages and modules in Fusion Apps being built with Visual Builder. Basically, every new development in Fusion Apps is done with Visual Builder, and all those pages would allow you to do customization. The other question is, okay, so I have an ADF-based module, an old page, but I want a new UI on top of it. Can I still do it? So the answer to that is yes. You can use the app UI and the development approach of extensions that I showed you today, and you can access REST services from any module in Fusion Apps, even if the module is not a Redwood module yet. As I showed you how to access, for example, the expenses, and expenses right now is still not a Redwood-based module, but you can still create a Redwood UI on top of it if you want to, using Visual Builder Studio. The other question is, okay, so hopefully by this time you know that all of this is included for free inside Fusion Apps. If you want to modify existing pages or create new pages in Fusion Apps, when do you need a standalone Visual Builder instance? If you want your application to allow access to non-Fusion user, if you want to run the application outside of Fusion Apps, if you want to access some external REST data that have advanced security, right now you can only do it with a standalone Visual Builder, but again, over time you'll also be able to do it with app UI extensions. Or if you want your own database, a standalone database, or connect to an existing other database, those would require a standalone Visual Builder instance. If you want to learn more about what we do, okay, first a little summary. As hopefully you've seen today, Visual Builder is the best solution for building extensions to Oracle Fusion Cloud application. It's built into the platform, it's already included, it's tied into the security, into the services, and into the UI in a seamless way. Okay? All new Fusion modules are being built with Visual Builder, and with Visual Builder Studio, you're also going to be able to modify and configure and extend those. Okay, Visual Builder Studio is part of Fusion. You already get it in your instance. You just need the right tool in order to access it. The same development approach that we're using in-house is used for you to do customization and for you to build your own bespoke application, whether they're related to Fusion Apps or even if they're standalone application. You can use Visual Builder to build any type of application you want with a low-code development approach, all based on JavaScript, HTML, with a very visual development environment. If you want to learn more, on docsoracle.com, we have specific books about extending Fusion Apps with Visual Builder. That's under the Visual Builder Studio section. Also, you would find books about it in Fusion Apps in the customization part of Fusion Apps. We have a lot of blogs that show and demonstrate the things we showed today. You can find them on blogs.oracle.com/VBCS. We have a YouTube channel with a lot of videos that teach you how to use Visual Builder. And we also have a LinkedIn group where you can ask questions or you can get updates on the latest things in Visual Builder world. We also have forums on the Oracle community site where you can ask questions about Visual Builder and get further information. So that's basically all we had time for today. Thank you for attending. I'm going to cover some of the Q&A questions that we got during the session. We did customization with Page Composer when the page is updated to Redwood. Are we going to lose the customization? The answer is yes. Redwood pages are different pages than the pages that were in ADF. They look different, they behave differently. So whatever customization you did is probably not relevant to the new page because the new page might have new fields, new layout, new functionality. But if you would need to modify the pages that we deliver, you can of course do it with Visual Builder. Is it mandatory to use Redwood theme in Oracle Financial Cloud to take advantage of Visual Builder Studio, or can it support custom themes too? So again, there's a little confusion here between what we call the Redwood theme, which is just the look and feel, the Redwood generation of application, which is the new modules that are in there, and the ADF pages. Basically, if you're creating an app UI extension inside Fusion App, you would want it to have the Redwood look and feel because that's the same look and feel as the rest of Fusion App. You want to be consistent, okay? If you want a separate look and feel, you can use a standalone Visual Builder and create a standalone application with any look and feel you want. In terms of do you need to be on Redwood to create those extensions? The answer is no. Even if your financial module is not based on Redwood yet, you can create your own new Redwood pages accessing the financial data through REST. Can we use fragments that Oracle developed in our custom pages? Yes, that's actually one of the great things. Oracle creates a lot of reusable components and fragments that you can actually base your pages on, starting from the complete template to fragments that you can bring into your pages. Those would appear under the resources and dependencies inside your Fusion App extensions. How is Visual Builder access custom database objects, tables, views? Where to create those custom objects? So if you want to create them as part of the Fusion Apps database, you can use the App Composer tool that comes with Fusion Apps to create your own custom objects in that database. If you want to create database objects in an external database, then for Visual Builder to access them, you need to create a REST service. You can do it, for example, using ORDS, okay, or any other technology to expose a database as REST services, and then we can read them from your extensions, okay? Also, if you're using standalone Visual Builder, we can map to an existing database, or we give you a built-in database that you can create tables on as well, okay? By the way, in the future, you would also be able to create business objects directly in App UI extension, but this is a little bit further down the road, but this is on our roadmap. There's a question here about Gen 3 OIC in Visual Builder Studio environments. That's probably not related to today's seminar, but please post on our forum and we'll be able to answer it over there. Again, like the question on the Page Composer, we kind of answered it previously. Can I connect with, okay. If you have, again, further questions after this, feel free to ask on our forums. I'm personally monitoring this as well as many other product managers. If you want deeper presentation, again, contact your Oracle team. Oracle is always happy to answer questions. We don't see Express mode in the module in the instance that we are on. Express mode is available for specific pages, okay? Over time, more and more pages would enable Express mode. As you saw, for example, Journeys already has Express mode, so you can try and customize this one. Over time, more and more pages would allow you to do Express mode in HCM, in SCM, and in other line of businesses in CX as well, okay? Right now, a lot of the pages are still only available in advanced mode. Can we add dashboard in Redwood pages? Yes, we have a dashboard template page in Redwood, and you can add your own dashboard, include charts in there, gauges, and a lot of data visualization as well. After I publish to my test instance, how do I move it to production? We actually have a blog entry about it in our VBCS blog. Basically, you run a build job that does the deployment map to your production instance. Just like the build job that you basically copy the build job that does deployment to test, you modify the target to point to your production, and that's all you need to do. How big is the database that comes with Visual Builder for SaaS? Again, there is no such thing as Visual Builder for SaaS. There's Visual Builder Studio. Okay. SaaS has their own database. I don't know if they have any limitation on the number or the size of objects that you can create there. If you buy a standalone Visual Builder, it comes with a 5 GB database. If you want more, just point us to any Oracle database and Visual Builder would work with that. Can I migrate an application created with Visual Builder into Visual Builder Studio? Yes, the answer is yes. Visual Builder Studio is just the design time, and we can import an existing application in there. The application would still run on your standalone Visual Builder just like before, but you'll get all the benefits of the managed team management Git environment that Visual Builder Studio provides to you. Again, we have a blog about it, post on our forum, and we'll give you a link to it. How is this Visual Builder for SaaS? Again, there is no such thing as Visual Builder for SaaS. There is Visual Builder Studio that is part of SaaS. It's the design time and the DevOps, and it's deploying into Fusion Apps. Hopefully, from the session, you saw the difference in architecture. If no, just watch the replay, and you'll see the different architectures that we're using. In terms of the development experience, same development experience, all the knowledge that you learned on one is applicable to the other, same techniques, same everything else. So the development is exactly the same. All right, I think that's all the time we had for today. Again, if you have any further question, please post on the Visual Builder forum on the Cloud Customer Connect, and we'll be happy to answer questions over there. Have a great day, and thank you for attending today.